On my way over here this morning, I actually saw a sign on the side of the road near the neighborhood of Gilo protesting
Where's
the
Gilo? Gilo is the southern
yeah, it's the
neighborhood,
southern neighborhood of Jerusalem,
which is beyond the Green Line.
which is beyond the Green Line exactly. There was a sign up protesting the fact that the Israeli government is going to remove certain housing units in the neighborhood of Beit that's north of Ramallah. Do you have any information about this at all?
Yes, I do. Um, Basically, this goes back to an order. The High Court of Justice ordered the State of Israel on Tuesday to demolish 24 what are called illegal housing units in two apartment buildings that are currently under construction in that community of Beit El. And this goes back to an incident of a group called Yesh Din, a legal advocacy group, Israeli legal advocacy group, which petitioned the High Court on behalf of the supposed Palestinian property owners of that property. Um, and Originally, the state agreed that it would be taken down, but later that year, this was part of an arrangement with the state that it would legalize that property to be built as part of a deal to secure an evacuation as part of a deal where it would legalize a property in return for evacuating an Ulpana outpost, the outpost of Ulpana, in the summer of 2012, which was another property incident there as well. Um, and so they agreed with that, but little happened. Little occurred to apparently to this, according to this Jerusalem Post report, to legalize that property until this past February, when an IDF subcommittee gave its approval to finally build those two apartments. So the problem is that so they gave this approval, but the court is ordering their demolition right now, and apparently the reasoning that they said, they could legalize it within just officially within just a few days, but the justice, I think Justice Rubenstein said they don't want to set a precedent where people build first and then seek authorizations after they've already built. So that's the main reason, not because of it needs to be destroyed now, but they just don't want to set a precedent where you start building and then you seek authorization from the IDF and from Israel, the state, to build homes. And I think this goes to the root of the problem. Obviously there's an incident of, um, you know, I think that it's a just case to say it would have been much more logical to say, well, if it's been determined that there's Palestinian private property owners here, okay, fine, I understand. You need to take it down. But I think there's a key point uh, that's kind of here is that you need to seek authorization from the country to build. And it's understandable why you need a certain process, organization. But here's the problem: is that um, international pressure does not allow Israel to give authorization for extra building, beyond the Green Line, because um, the position of many in the international community is that any type of building, whether it's on Palestinian property or not, whether it's on Israeli IDF controlled territory in the West Bank, quote unquote, or not, it doesn't matter. It's illegitimate according to many in the international community. And so that means that all of these communities are on some level illegitimate to many in the international community. Um, Israel, generally, there's been some sort of a quote unquote settlement freeze, pretty much de facto since 2009, because there will be serious ramifications for Israel if they go along with building anywhere. And so I think that, it's one of the reasons perhaps maybe why people build and then seek authorization, which is what the court mentioned was the problem here, is that, the state understandably delays authorization for these building projects. And the reason that they delay authorization is because they constantly get pressured from the international community. Don't you dare don't you dare grant authorization for this project here. Don't you dare, because Jews can't build there. Israel, you can't, Arabs can build there, Palestinians can build there, but Jews, you can't build there. And so it's the Jews who live beyond the green line, you know, they if they want to expand their homes and they want to, what are they to do? So I think that's probably the root of the root of the problem here. Um, it says, and this is noteworthy. There's a letter from many rabbis in the in Israel, and it reads, especially at this time when we commemorate a decade ago, 10 years ago, since the terrible removal of Jews from Gaza, and the government implements yet another building freeze in Judea and Samaria. They read that the government is under pressure from the nations of the world. And this is true. I mean, this is very true. I mean, you saw it December of 2013, I think it was, when after the Palestinian Authority made various actions to exceed their status in the international community, Israel decided to start a plan of building right next to the community of Ma'ale Adumim, which is just east of Jerusalem. And there was an outcry in the international community because, my gosh, Israel's building homes for Jews. It's a major problem. The real thing is that it's not the fact that building homes for Jews, but supposedly when Israel builds in these territories, it apparently is a threat to the two-state solution. And it is the foreign policy agenda of many countries in the international community to impose a two-state solution on both Israel and the Palestinians. And basically, it is true. I mean, that any extra construction of Jewish homes in what's called the West Bank is a direct threat to the two-state solution, and that is why Israel doesn't build there, because the countries around the world that have a foreign policy agenda to force two-state solution won't let Israel build in those areas.
Well, I think another issue is that Beit has always been contested as an area that was owned by Al-Dura and the Al-Dura clan and the area of Ramallah. But the Israeli military, when they put up their outpost there, they said it was to be a temporary outpost to be able to defend against any kind of terrorist threats that may come from Ramallah. And then just over time, they invited settlers to come in and make a life for themselves. And it's really grown into this huge community, I think, of 10,000 or 9,000 people.
Yeah. And mind you, there's historical, Beit El has historical significance to the Jewish culture, Hebrew history. That's where the biblical forefather Yaakov had his famous dream
About the ladder.
Where the angels going up and going down.
And you can actually go there and see the place where he actually had that.
Exactly. So I mean, the international community expects us to give that whole place up. I don't know. I think this is. I mean, this is obviously a legal case of property ownership, and but I think it's reminiscent of a more pressing issue that there is a de facto settlement freeze, and about 2 days ago, the Jewish Home Party in the coalition started making coalition threats to Netanyahu, saying you better start building again in Judea and Samaria. And obviously the response is, well, we can't because there's international pressure. And so it is a problem, is that it's not just, internationally, it's not just, the issue is not just, property ownership, but the issue is just any type of building for Jews in general, any part beyond the Green Line. And I think that is, it's still reminiscent in this case on some level.
I think also that's one of the reasons why we have such a big housing crisis. Is the very fact that we have very little land, and the land that we can build on, because we fought in wars and won it, the international community doesn't allow us to build.
Correct. So I mean, you look at a map, a demographic map of Israel from above. You'll see it's all crowded in Israel's coastal region, which is very thin, and then you have all these mountains to the east that are just vast and open, and there's no building there because Israel's not allowed to build there. Israel would like to, but they're not allowed to. They're threatened from sanctions from the European Union and the U.S. Even the current administration has really threatened to impose penalties on Israel. Um, Even in the last administration, George Bush implemented some serious penalties. I think they took away some loan guarantees from Israel because they were building. So there's been pressure. There's been pressure on Israel, and it's really strong pressure now. Obviously, Israel can decide to ignore that pressure, but it's not. And I think on some level it should. But in order to do that, you need like a strong collective behind you. You need a strong collective ready to resist against international pressure and just build. Um, but that's something I think we need to develop in society, in Israeli society, is just to resist international pressure and build um, you want to stick it to Palestinians. We should obviously yearn to live side by side with them. I think, but this is a civil. I think it's a civil rights issue. Why can't Jews build? And by the way, it's the same thing. Like build first and then seek authorization. Because right now, the whole issue is that the status of the West Bank, quote unquote, has not been solved yet with this two-state solution negotiation. So we don't know which one's going to be belonging to Israel and belonging to the Palestinian Authority. So that's the thing here, is that the international community wants a resolution first, and then Israel can build wherever the permanent borders will be. But I think it's yeah. I think this is a civil rights issue over time.